I need probably to be arrested, either put in jail. I just need to get out of here.
During my research into the issue of homelessness in America, I was genuinely shocked to learn that one of the cities most devastated by fentanyl and meth-based city ranks just behind Los Angeles and Philadelphia. Once a hotspot for tourism and shopping in the United States, this place has now fallen into such decay that people in Michigan call it ZOMBIELAND. So what exactly is happening in this once picture-perfect city? Do the homeless here still hold on to the American dream, or are they just simply getting high? Let's find out in today's episode. Current situation of homelessness in Bay City. What has changed in Bay City since 2024? In the course of researching the crises among the homeless in America, I discovered that homelessness in Bay City has continued to grow steadily. According to data shared at a local Bay City Commission meeting, statewide figures exceeded 33,000 people experiencing homelessness in Michigan during 2024, up from about 32,700 in 2023, and continuing into early 2025. Even though full statewide counts for Bay County in 2024 are not yet finalized, the local trend is clear: homelessness is rising. In surrounding areas such as Detroit and Grand Rapids, the populations increased by approximately 2 to 3% during the same period. Given that Bay City's population is only about 32 to 400 as of 2023, these numbers represent a significant local strain.
Every day that I'm out here longer, it's another piece of, my values, my soul, my essence of who I am is getting lost. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, how much can you take? And then you see these people here that are just a shell. There's just nothing there anymore. You know that, they are living 2 minutes at a time of their life, just to get that use, and that's all that matters. And I'm so lucky that there's still more of me left, and it's literally decimating the American youth. It's just the quiet killer going on right now.
Furthermore, Bay City's capacity to address the crisis appears limited. According to the city's Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, Bay City set a goal to provide affordable housing units to 150 homeless households. Yet the actual result was 0 units produced. Rental assistance goals were partially met, but only 20 households received minor repairs, not full housing support. This gap between ambition and reality reflects both operational and financial limitations within the local housing system. In addition, shelters like Good Samaritan have operated over capacity for long periods, relying on community development block grant funds and local allocations such as marijuana tax revenue to sustain operations. A new drop-in shelter was approved in early 2025, with $400,000 allocated, expected to open by May or June. This facility will accommodate up to 35 people nightly, offering meals, showers, laundry services, storage, and a quiet space, though still limited in scale given the increasing demand. Homelessness in Bay City since 2024 has continued to rise, mirroring broader trends across Michigan and the United States. The city faces rising shelter demand, limited affordable housing production, and operational struggles in meeting set goals. Against the wider backdrop of Homeless in America, these local challenges illustrate how structural issues, limited support systems, and overwhelmed social services lead to a persistent, visible crisis on Bay City's streets. A city well known for drug addiction, substance abuse, and mental illness. When we talk about Bay City's homelessness, it is impossible to ignore the deep connection between life on the streets and substance abuse. Over the last decade, this city has seen a shift in the type of drugs circulating among vulnerable populations. In earlier years, marijuana, prescription painkillers, and alcohol were the primary substances linked to homeless cases here. However, by the late 2010s and early 2020s, more dangerous and highly addictive drugs, particularly methamphetamine and fentanyl, began to take hold. The arrival of these substances was not accidental. Meth entered the city through regional trafficking routes in Michigan's Central Corridor, while fentanyl often came hidden in counterfeit pills or mixed into other drugs, making it cheaper and more accessible.
Fentanyl xylazine is another level, and there's nothing to counteract that. Like our officers do not have the medical grade counteracting agents for xylazine that we have for Narcan. With Narcan and fentanyl and the opioids.
This change hit Bay City's homeless population hard. These substances are not only more addictive, but also far more destructive to mental stability, which in turn makes finding and keeping housing much harder. Local outreach workers often speak about a cycle where substance abuse worsens mental health, which then drives deeper isolation and dependence on drugs. This is not just a Bay City story, it is part of a broader crisis affecting the homeless in America. What makes Bay City stand out is the visibility of this crisis. Many residents and business owners describe certain blocks where public drug use is common. Shelters have had to increase security measures, not because they want to criminalize homelessness, but because the safety of staff and other guests can be at risk when someone is under the influence of powerful stimulants or synthetic opioids. Unfortunately, this environment makes it even harder for those who genuinely want to recover. I know most people watching this video know that homeless people here take homelessness as a choice. But the question is, was it after or before being left on the streets that they chose to suffer so bad? From my perspective, this is not only a public health emergency, but also a moral failure. A city that once prided itself on being a hub of tourism and culture now battles an image problem tied to addiction. And while I believe in compassion for every person struggling, I also believe in holding individuals accountable when their actions harm the community. Addiction destroys not only the life of the user, but also the trust and safety of the neighborhoods around them. So the question is, why has Bay City allowed such an epidemic to grow so visibly? Is it because enforcement has been too soft, or because treatment options are too few? Whatever the reason, ignoring the problem is no longer an option. If we are serious about addressing homelessness here, we must tackle substance abuse head-on through stronger prevention programs, better treatment access, and a clear refusal to normalize public drug use. Without that, the cycle will continue, and Bay City will remain another painful example in the ongoing story of homelessness in America. When fentanyl and meth arrived in Bay City. The story of fentanyl and meth in Bay City is a lesson in how quickly a community can change when dangerous substances enter the picture. For years, the city dealt with the same kinds of drugs seen in many mid-sized American towns: marijuana, prescription opioids, and some cocaine. But around 2016, meth began to arrive in larger quantities, coming through trafficking networks that moved drugs from other states into Michigan's smaller cities. Meth was cheap, powerful, and easy to produce, which made it especially attractive to people already struggling with poverty and unstable housing. Fentanyl's arrival was even more devastating. By the late 2010s, it had started appearing in the region's drug supply, often mixed into heroin or pressed into counterfeit pills. This synthetic opioid was many times stronger than morphine, and its low cost meant dealers could stretch their products further. The result was a surge in addiction that reached deep into Bay City's homeless population. Many individuals who had once managed their lives while using drugs found themselves quickly overwhelmed by fentanyl's grip. These substances did more than create health problems, they reshaped the city's streets. People who might have been able to hold a job or maintain temporary housing were suddenly unable to function in daily life. Outreach workers noticed more individuals losing touch with reality, displaying erratic behavior, and needing repeated emergency interventions. While law enforcement stepped up patrols and made arrests, the underlying demand for these drugs was not reduced. From an educational standpoint, Bay City's experience is a clear example of how prevention is always easier than recovery. Once fentanyl and meth are embedded in a community, the human and social costs multiply quickly. It is far more effective to invest in early education, community awareness, and accessible treatment before these substances take hold than to repair the damage afterward. The arrival of fentanyl and meth in Bay City should serve as a warning for other cities across the country. Once these drugs are part of the daily reality for the homeless in America, removing them from the streets becomes an uphill battle, one that demands both strong enforcement and compassionate long-term recovery solutions. Four, homelessness in Bay City after COVID-19. How did the COVID-19 pandemic contribute to the explosion of homelessness in Bay City? From early 2020 through 2022, the pandemic and its aftermath accelerated existing structural issues, pushing many into instability and homelessness. During the pandemic, Michigan received substantial federal relief through the CARES Act and American Rescue Plan. Rental assistance funds totaling hundreds of millions of dollars were deployed statewide beginning in spring 2021. Initially, these programs helped to delay a large-scale housing crisis. However, by late 2022, adoption rates slowed, assistance dwindled, and many households could no longer sustain rising rent burdens. Simultaneously, unemployment surged and many lost jobs, permanently pushing informal renters and marginally housed individuals onto the streets. At the same time, Michigan saw an 8% rise in homelessness from 2021 to 2022, largely attributed to the loss of rental assistance, widespread job loss, and the lack of affordable housing supply. Bay County, which includes Bay City, mirrored these trends sharply. Local shelters such as Good Samaritan reported repeatedly operating above capacity as more people arrived seeking beds and services. By January 2024, statewide homelessness had risen past 33,000 individuals a year-over-year increase from approximately 32,700 in 2023. In Bay City itself, outreach programs observed a steady influx of people sleeping outdoors or in unauthorized encampments. After one encampment was shuttered in late 2024, local organizations mobilized to find temporary solutions, demonstrating both urgency and scarcity of resources. Michigan's housing shortage, a condition worsened by economic turmoil, was foundational to the crisis. Many Bay City residents lived paycheck to paycheck before COVID. when eviction moratoriums and rental assistance ended, families and individuals with limited savings or fixed incomes were left vulnerable. In urban centers, rising rent contrasted sharply with stagnant wages, making recovery impossible. Even those employed full-time often spent more than 30% of income on housing, creating a fragile threshold where any financial shock triggered displacement. These developments reflect the broader story of homeless in America, a mix of economic shock, insufficient safety nets, and inadequate supply of affordable housing. Is providing more rental assistance enough? Or should the focus shift to long-term housing construction and eviction prevention strategies? That question echoes through Bay City's streets and in national debates. In educational terms, Bay City's experience offers a warning. Temporary aid may stall disaster, but unless systemic gaps are closed, homelessness becomes persistent. And yet when people fall through the cracks, evictions, job loss, pandemic trauma, the social consequences spread beyond individuals to affect whole neighborhoods. If Bay City wants to reverse course, it must invest both in emergency support and in expanding affordable housing stock. Else the pattern seen in Homeless in America remains deeply entrenched here as well. The housing shortage caused homelessness. One of the most pressing forces driving homelessness in Bay City is the shortage of affordable housing. While homelessness is often linked to personal struggles such as addiction or mental illness, the reality is that structural housing issues have created an environment where even those with steady jobs can find themselves without a place to live. In recent years, rental prices in Bay City have risen faster than local wages. Data from housing market reports show that median rent in the area has increased by nearly 20% over the past 5 years, while wage growth has remained relatively flat. This means that more households are spending over 30% of their income on housing, a level considered cost-burdened by federal standards. When families are in this position, any unexpected expense, medical bills, car repairs, or job loss, can push them into eviction. Compounding the problem is the lack of new affordable housing construction. Bay City set targets in its housing plans to add units for low-income residents, yet production has fallen far short of those goals. In some cases, projects stalled due to funding gaps or zoning restrictions. Older rental stock, which once provided low-cost housing, has also been reduced as landlords renovate and increase rents or sell to developers focused on higher-income tenants. Gentrification has played a subtle role as well. While Bay City has sought to attract tourism and small business investment, these changes often come with higher property values and rents. Longtime residents, particularly those on fixed incomes, have been priced out of their neighborhoods. This displacement feeds directly into the local homeless count, further straining shelters and outreach programs. The shortage is not just a Bay City issue. It mirrors the national housing crisis faced by many communities dealing with the Homeless in America problem. Without increasing the supply of affordable housing, even generous rental assistance programs become short-term fixes rather than lasting solutions. So the question becomes, is Bay City prepared to make the investments necessary to bridge this gap? Expanding low-income housing, protecting existing affordable units, and preventing displacement are not optional steps, they are essential if the city hopes to reverse its rising homelessness trend. Until these actions are taken, the housing shortage will remain one of the most stubborn roots of the crisis. Social Security in Bay City. When discussing homelessness in Bay City, one critical factor often overlooked is the role of Social Security and public assistance programs. While these systems are designed to provide a safety net in practice, many homeless individuals find them difficult to access or inadequate to meet their needs. Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, and Supplemental Security Income SSI are two programs that could help people who cannot work due to disability or illness. However, in Bay City, the application process is slow and complex, often taking months or even years to approve. For someone living on the streets, meeting documentation requirements, attending medical evaluations, and following up on paperwork can be nearly impossible. Many give up before ever receiving benefits. Other forms of aid, like temporary assistance for needy families, TANF, or food assistance programs, provide some relief but rarely address the root cause housing. In fact, most benefits are not enough to cover rent, especially as prices rise. A single person receiving SSI in Michigan in 2024 might get around $940 per month, but with average rents far exceeding that amount, housing stability remains out of reach without additional help. Local shelters and nonprofits try to bridge the gap by offering case management to help people navigate these systems, yet they too face capacity and funding limits. This creates a frustrating cycle where people who qualify for aid cannot get it quickly enough to prevent or end homelessness. This raises an important question: should Social Security and assistance programs be redesigned to respond faster and more effectively to crises? In the larger context of Homeless in America, the answer seems obvious: delays cost people their health dignity, and often their last chance to regain stability. For Bay City, reforming and streamlining access to these benefits could be a turning point in reducing its homeless population. From my perspective, the homelessness crisis in Bay City is not just an unfortunate situation, it is the result of years of political neglect and misplaced priorities. City leaders have been quick to announce initiatives, yet slow to deliver real change. Promises of affordable housing, improved social services, and expanded treatment programs have too often turned into empty words. Meanwhile, the streets tell a very different story. I believe compassion must be paired with accountability. We cannot simply accept open-air drug use, unsafe encampments, and a lack of progress as the new normal. A city that tolerates these conditions is not protecting its citizens, housed or unhoused. We must demand that local government, state agencies, and federal partners act decisively to address the structural causes: housing shortages, underfunded treatment centers, and ineffective public assistance systems. Bay City's crisis is a reflection of the broader Homeless in America problem, but that cannot be an excuse to do nothing. The city has the capacity, resources, and talent to make a difference. What it needs now is the political will to act boldly and the courage to enforce policies that will protect public safety while restoring dignity to those who are ready to rebuild their lives. Conclusion. Bay City's homelessness crisis is a complex problem, shaped by addiction, housing shortages, economic instability, and weak social support systems. Over the past few years, the situation has worsened, reflecting the broader challenges faced by homeless in America. While the numbers and visible impact are alarming, the real tragedy lies in how preventable much of this suffering is. With stronger leadership, strategic investment in affordable housing, and more accessible treatment programs, the city could reverse this decline. The question is no longer whether Bay City can afford to act, it is whether it can afford not to. Every day of inaction deepens. The crisis erodes public trust and costs more lives in the long run. The path forward requires both compassion and firm resolve, ensuring that recovery is possible for every person while restoring the safety, dignity, and future of the community.